The Bible talks about a practice called casting lots, even for Judas's replacement. But how was that done, and what do they look like? I've got pictures. I'm answering your questions. Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm a deep skeptic, also a pastor. This is a fun one. I've been working on it for a couple of days. So what did they look like? Well, they were made of stone or bone and kind of looked like dice or even just like little bones. Some of them had markings on them, some of them did not. And archaeologists have recovered lots from all throughout the time of the Bible in the places where the Bible actually happened. And I've got pictures of them. I'm getting ahead of myself. How were they actually used? Okay, so what most likely happens is that the lots are placed in some kind of container or a piece of fabric and shaken until one of the lots comes out. And this really echoes what you see in Proverbs 16, where it says the lot is cast into the lap. So if you would like sit down, this is a public thing, not a private thing. A lot of people would be there and they would ask God a question. They would begin to shake the lots and a lot would fall out. So there's several places where this happens in the Old Testament. Okay, so it's too wet, cold, and windy to continue our walk together. Hopefully the algorithm gods will not frown on this video. But let's talk about a yes or no decision. So there's a yes or no decision. It's likely two lots. One is colored, one is not. They're shaken, one falls out, and it gives you the yes or no answer. Sometimes this is going to be like what we see in Jonah chapter 1, where they're trying to figure out who is the guilty party, and it says that the lot fell to Jonah. The yes or no's that we have in the Bible are something called the Urim and the Thummim. So the Urim and the Thummim are specialized lots that are used by the priest. It is what they assume is there is a black one and a white one. It is in the high priest's breastplate, and you could find all of that description in Exodus and Leviticus and Numbers. But we find a specific example of this in 1 Samuel chapter 14, where Samuel's trying to figure out, is it his guilt or the guilt of Jonathan? So it's a binary, like a yes or no kind of question. And what would happen is the high priest would ask the question, probably say some kind of incantation, some kind of prayer, reach in and draw it out. And in that case, the lot falls to Jonathan. Now, when archaeologists have uncovered lots, they'll find some that have like markings, inscriptions, those kinds of things. But when they find those generally outside of Israel when it's in the Old Testament time period. And so the idea that, scholars say is that most likely the lots in Israel are uncomplicated. Now, sometimes they are trying to figure out, a question between a whole bunch of things, like all of the tribes or a bunch of people, like who is the guilty party, like in Jonah chapter 1. And so what likely happens here is that there are a bunch of lots that are different colors, have some sort of different way of distinguishing them, different shapes, that kind of thing. And they would toss those lots, and when the lot fell out, and another way to say that is it came up, that would indicate a person, or maybe a tribes would be selected in a specific order, and so like the first one is the first tribe, the second one is the second tribe. So there's two really famous places where this is talked about in the New Testament. The book of John, you have the Roman soldiers casting lots to see which of Jesus' garments they get. Now, in this time, the Roman soldiers are really gambling, and they're using basically dice. And so each person would get a dice, and they wouldn't just shake it up in a box and let it come out. They're going to be casting these lots onto the back of a Roman shield. And so each of them would throw their dice, and the highest number would win. And so then they would get that piece of garment, then they would move on to the next garment. Then there is this moment in Acts that has always felt really weird to me. So by the time we get to the New Testament, Rome is occupying Israel. Roman culture is beginning to bleed over into Israel, and this actually happens with lots as well. We've got some really solid evidence of this from the Mishnah, some writings from the Second Temple Judaism, and it talks about a lot being cast, and it is inscribed. There's two lots. One of them is for the Lord, and the other one is for Azazel. So it appears that Jewish people are now using inscribed lots. Now, here's the story from the Bible. In Acts chapter 1, we have a problem. Jesus has appointed 12 disciples, and the number 12 is really important, right? The 12 tribes of Israel. And one of those disciples, Judas, has betrayed Jesus and unalived himself, and they now are at 11. They want to replace that disciple. They don't just want to elect them because it needs to be God. Jesus needs to choose this disciple as well. So they talk amongst themselves. They come up with two names, Matthias and Barsabbas, and it says they're going to cast lots. What likely happens is they take two lots and they inscribe one with Matthias, one with Barsabbas. They shake them up in a piece of fabric or some other way, and whatever falls out, that's the one that God has chosen. And the one that falls out is Barsabbas. Okay, let's look at the pictures of the archaeological finds. We've found lots from a long time ago, all the way back to 1500 BCE is what I think is the earliest one. That was found at Megiddo. Unfortunately, there's not a picture of that. So we do have these marked stones from Phoenicia that are like 1000 BCE or so. And this is the closest analog to the marked stones that we hear about in the Bible in Israel when it comes to casting lots. And they're just beautiful. Look at them. It's from Astrologus. This is on the Mediterranean coast of Israel. This is from the 5th century BCE and maybe a little bit earlier. This is what it looks like. They are knuckle bones, and these things are really what look like to be the clearest physical parallels to what we see in these really early Old Testament lot casting practices. Here's the big one, Roman dice that were excavated in Jerusalem at the time of Jesus. This is exactly what the Roman soldiers are going to be using, and look at them. They look very much like modern dice, and this is the Roman ones. So I don't know, really cool archaeology. This was a fun question to answer. If you've got questions about God or the Bible or spirituality or anything like that you'd like me to answer, my DMs are open. I get a lot, so it takes me a while to respond sometimes, but I can't wait to see the other things that you ask.